Mark Rogers TV talking NFL draft, and we remind you that we invite your comments and questions. So this is just not me. This is you being a fan of a particular team or conference who know the players coming from your conference. So let's talk college football transition to the NFL, and 3 Ohio State Buckeyes taken in the top 10 NFL picks. The back-to-back selections of Joey Bosa and Zeke Elliott to the San Diego Chargers and Dallas Cowboys, and then sneaking into the top 10, Eli Apple to the New York Giants. So let's talk some Bosa here. Of course, he had on some draft boards earlier, especially before the NFL Combine, was the #1 player. Then he didn't perform so well at the NFL Combine, and is often the case. The Combine measurements bring down a player, and then that wears off and the game tape becomes prominent once again. So this is a guy that did nothing but produce. So if you look at his sophomore season, the national championship season at Ohio State, Joey Bosa's numbers were off the charts. Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, by many accounts, many publications, the National Player of the Year defensively, because he was all over opponents in the backfield, wreaking havoc. Okay, he drew attention. Did he have a down season in 2015? Not if you watch the game tape. He was just as aggressive, just as menacing, but he gained all that attention from the double and triple teams, and he had to deal with it. So the numbers went down in regards to tackles for loss and sacks, but he was still a very, very productive player. Okay, the issue with Joey Bosa is that he may have maxed out his potential. He's not an extremely explosive player. Again, we saw the measurements at the Combine in regard to the 40 time, the vertical, and that not matching up with Von Miller's. In particular, that was the comparison, but other first-rate NFL defensive ends that have come out in the last 10 years, except Terrell Suggs, and we know that he has a borderline NFL Hall of Fame career going, and his measurables against Bosa very similar. I was surprised that the Chargers took Bosa. I thought that they would go with a more pure athlete, probably the best in the draft, Jalen Ramsey of Florida State. That would have been my selection. Ramsey, we will talk about him in a later video. All right, Zeke Elliott may have had the best run of 3 games in a clutch situation than any back in the history of college football. We know the situation at Ohio State coming down the stretch in 2014 with no room for error because of the early loss, needing to beat Wisconsin, then Alabama, then Oregon, the regarded 2 best teams in the country. Elliott smashed those 3 opponents, the #1 ranked rush defense in the land, and possibly the best in practicality, best rush defense in college football in Alabama, and then he tore up the Ducks. That was no big surprise. 220, 236, 256 on the ground, and really made the difference. Yes, we know he had a talented offensive line. We are seeing some of those players come off the board, and did last season as well for the Ohio State Buckeyes. But Zeke Elliott, in an interesting turn of events over the last 2 NFL drafts, led by Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon, now Zeke Elliott, where running backs getting a bit more respect, because in the matter of Gurley and Gordon and now Elliott, considered to be first-rate separation players, guys that change games. And I believe Elliott is a great pick here, maybe a little high for my taste, but still going to be a very productive back behind a stout Dallas Cowboys offensive line. Expect much from Zeke Elliott, who, again, if you listen to the scouting reports, is just as good a player without the football in his hands. He's a capable receiver, was not counted on doing that at Ohio State, but he caught some meaningful passes, especially in 14, and he's a fine blocker. All right, let's go down to Eli Apple. Probably, as many scouts believe, he could have benefited from the final season at Ohio State, but how could he raise his draft stock? I think his selection to leave early was validated by being selected 10th. Now, maybe the Giants reached for this one. Eli Apple, probably not a top 10 selection if you look across the board at position. Giants going for need. Eli Apple is going to be a solid player in this league. At the same time, not always a willing tackler, a decent tackler, but not a great run supporter on the corner, not great ball skills, basically a great athlete who, again, needs to improve his ball skills to become a difference maker in the NFL, a guy that creates turnovers, intercepts passes, a guy when you talk about the elite defenders or the elite interceptors, not always the best cornerbacks, but the guys that turn the ball over, that get the 7-8 interceptions. He's not going to be that guy unless he certainly works on the ball skills. So it's Bosa, who I didn't think could go to San Diego, at 3, Zeke Elliott at 4 to Dallas. A stretch for a running back, but if you're going to go there, he's the best guy off the board. Certainly this year, it's not even close, but even in the last few years, and Eli Apple may be a bit of a stretch because of need for the New York Giants. My thoughts on the 3 Buckeyes in the top 10 right here on Mark Rogers TV. Now we need to hear from you.